Fifth Avenue glittered under the winter sun. The luxury jewelry boutique in the middle of the block looked like a crystal box, all glass walls and chandeliers. Inside, diamonds burned on velvet. Lena Cole stood at the main display case, fingers tied around the strap of her worn bag, eyes locked on one piece. The starfall necklace. A slim platinum chain, a ring of tiny diamonds, and at the center an oval blue sapphire that caught every shard of light. 3 months ago she had seen it by accident and fallen in love on the spot. Since then she had said no to cabs, takeout, and new clothes, watching her savings crawl upward until the necklace was almost possible. Almost. Her 25th birthday was next week. Buying it would mean starting over from scratch. Her reflection hovered on the glass above the necklace. Long dark hair curled at the ends, the way he liked it. Soft cream sweater, gentle makeup, small pearl studs. She did not remember when she had started to dress like a ghost. 3 years ago Kaysen Thorne had walked into the Midtown cafe where she worked part-time. He had ordered an espresso, looked up, and his face had gone blank for a second. Later she learned why. Evelyn White. The childhood sweetheart. The one who had gone to Europe with a scholarship and a suitcase and never really come back, at least not in his head. People in his circle still spoke her name with that soft, careful tone reserved for saints and martyrs. You are like a 7 out of 10 version of her, Lena's best friend Myra had said once after finding old pictures online. Enough to confuse a man who misses her, not enough for him to forget who he thinks the original is. Lena had laughed then, embarrassed. It did not feel funny now. A chime sounded as the boutique door opened behind her. Cold air brushed her neck, carrying a scent she knew too well. Clean cedar, citrus, soft spice. Kaysen. His reflection appeared in the glass beside hers, taller, sharper. Dark hair pushed back, charcoal coat open over a navy suit. A small gold watch at his wrist, tie neat, every inch of him controlled and polished. On his arm, sliding easily into his side, was a woman in a champagne dress and white wool coat. Evelyn. Lena had seen photos, but even the most flattering ones had not done her justice. Up close, Evelyn looked like the world had been designed to flatter her. Pale skin, soft blonde waves, light makeup that still somehow made her eyes huge. She walked like the room belonged to her. They moved past Lena without seeing her, toward the same case. Evelyn's voice was low and sweet. Kaysen, look at that necklace, she said, pointing at the starfall piece Lena had been staring at. It is beautiful. I love the blue. The saleswoman hurried over with a trained smile. It is one of our newest designs, she said. The starfall necklace, platinum, and Ceylon sapphire. Would you like to see it up close? Evelyn leaned into Kaysen, resting her head lightly against his shoulder. I should not, she sighed. I have already spent too much. He looked down at her with a softness Lena had never seen directed at herself. His voice dropped. If you like it, you should have it, he said. You only live once, Evie. Evie. The nickname slid through Lena like ice. Without even checking the price tag, he turned to the saleswoman. We will take it, he said. Use your best gift box. She is wearing it tonight. Of course, Mr. Thorne, the woman said, glowing. 3 nights ago Lena had stood at the kitchen counter in his penthouse, phone in hand, heart beating too fast. Kaysen, she had said, showing him the store photo. I saw this necklace on Fifth. It is silly, but I cannot stop thinking about it. Maybe I will buy it for myself for my birthday, if I can. He had looked over once, briefly. Jewelry like that is not practical for you, he had said. You do not go to events. Put the money into something useful. She had laughed it off, pretended it did not land like a slap. Now she watched him pay for the same piece, not because the necklace had changed, but because the neck that would wear it had. The saleswoman lifted the starfall necklace from its holder, and for a moment the sapphire hung in the air between glass and light. Then she carried it away to be boxed, and the empty velvet curve stared back at Lena like an open wound. The floor under her feet felt unsteady, her chest ached, but no tears came yet. The hurt was too deep for something that simple. You really were waiting for him to notice, Myra had said once, softer than usual. You are building your life around a man who is still in love with a story he tells himself. I know what I am doing, Lena had said then. Watching the sapphire disappear, she knew that had been a lie. The saleswoman turned back to Lena, mistaking her for another client. Miss, is there anything you would like to see? She asked kindly. We have several other pieces in this line. Lena looked down at her own hands. No ring, no promise. 3 years and not even a clear label. Stand in. Nothing more. No, she said, surprised at how steady she sounded. I just realized it does not suit me after all. Outside, Fifth Avenue roared with traffic and voices. She stepped into the noise on shaky legs, the boutique door closing behind her with a soft chime. Cold air hit her lungs. Yellow cabs slid past, horns sharp. Somewhere a street vendor shouted about hot dogs. Lena walked without really seeing, the city blurring at the edges until she reached the corner and had to stop for the light. Wind knifed through her coat, but she barely felt it. 3 years of small compromises lined up in her head like a cruel slideshow. Cut your hair. Grow your hair. Wear more white. Do not wear red. Learn to make vanilla cake because she liked it. Laugh softer. Do not talk so much in front of his friends. Do not ask about the future. Do not say the word we when you mean you and I. Because he will not answer. She had told herself it was temporary, a waiting room. Someday he would close the door on his past and step fully into the present. Someday he would look at her and not see someone else. The light changed. People pushed around her, annoyed when she did not move. Lena inhaled. The breath hurt. She pulled her phone out with numb fingers, opened a new note, and began to type. Dear Kaysen, today I watched you buy the necklace I have been saving for and dreaming about for months. You told me it was too much for me, but it was never about the price. It was about the fact that it was for her. I have spent 3 years trying to be close enough to the woman you lost that you might decide I was worth keeping. I changed my hair, my clothes, my habits. I shrank my life to fit into the space you had left. I am tired. I am not Evelyn. I cannot compete with a memory, and I am done trying. By the time you read this, I will be gone. Not because I stopped caring, but because I finally understand that I am allowed to care about myself more. You can keep your ghosts. I am done being one. Lena. She read it twice. The words were sharp but true. Her hands shook, but her spine felt strangely straighter. The wind gusted, snapping at her coat. For the first time since she had met him, she pictured a future that did not include his name. It scared her. It also felt like air. Lena saved the note, slid her phone back into her pocket, and turned toward the subway entrance. Tonight she would pack. Tomorrow she would leave. Whatever came after, it would be hers. Not a stand-in role on someone else's stage. Hers. The penthouse set halfway to the clouds, all glass and stone and expensive silence. The elevator doors opened on the private floor with a soft chime. Lena stepped out, keycard already in her hand. The lock clicked. She walked into the cool, perfect living room for what she knew would be one of the last times. Floor-to-ceiling windows through the city at her feet. Black leather sofas, steel coffee table, abstract art. There were signs of another life everywhere. A pair of cuff links on the sideboard. A navy tie draped over the arm of a chair. On one shelf, in clean silver frames, the story of a different girl unfolded. Evelyn at 20 in a white sundress, laughing at the camera. Evelyn in a cap and gown. Evelyn and Kaysen at some beach, sun in their faces, wind in their hair. Lena's reflection floated between theirs on the glass. Same height, similar features, different life. She reached out and, very gently, turned one of the frames face down. Chapter closed, she said under her breath. Then she went to the bedroom. Her side of the closet held neat rows of clothes that had never really been hers. Soft knits, pale dresses, beige heels. Safe, quiet. Almost all of them new since she moved in here. The suitcases were on the top shelf. She dragged 2 down, snapped them open on the bed, and started to pack. Jeans and t-shirts first, the ones she had almost stopped wearing. The bright red wrap dress Myra had forced her to buy during a sale, the one that made Kaysen frown and say it was too much. The hoodie from college she refused to throw away. The sneakers with worn solace. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She checked the screen. Myra. She answered on speaker while folding clothes. What did he do? Myra demanded. No greeting, just pure lawyer energy. Lena laughed weakly. He bought the necklace, she said. For a second there was silence. Then a string of creative curses. For you? Myra asked. For her, Lena said. The starfall one. I told him I liked it. He said it was not practical for me. I saw them in the store today. He called her Evie. Told her she only lives once. Myra made a strangled sound. I am lighting a candle for my self-control, she said. Because I want to go commit a crime. I am leaving, Lena said, staring at the open suitcase. Saying it out loud made it more real. I wrote a letter. I will be out by morning. Myra's tone changed, turning fierce and steady. Good, she said. I will be there at 7 with coffee and my car. We will get your things out before Lord Stoneheart decides to show up. You have court tomorrow, Lena protested, even as relief washed over her. I have a flexible schedule and a deep, personal hatred for men like him, Myra replied. Do not argue with your lawyer. Lena smiled, throat thick. I am scared, she admitted. Of course you are, Myra said. You built your whole routine around him. But listen to me, Lena. You are not walking into nothing. You are walking into yourself. That sounds like a Pinterest quote, Lena murmured. Shut up and pack, Myra said. I am proud of you. After they hung up, the packing went faster. Toiletries, laptop, important papers. The small box of keepsakes she had tucked behind his suits. Photos with her parents, old concert tickets, the first business card she ever collected from a client. By the time the sky outside the windows turned dark, 2 full suitcases sat by the door. Lena printed the letter from her note, signed her name at the bottom with a hand that barely shook, and placed it on the entry table under the soft light of the hall lamp. She set her key fob on top of it. For a moment she just stood there, listening to the hum of the fridge in the next room, the distant sirens far below. She expected to feel like she was about to jump off a building. Instead she felt like she was finally climbing down from one. She slept in her clothes on the couch, shoes by the door, bags ready. Kaysen did not come home. At midnight her phone lit with a text. Staying at the office. Long day tomorrow. Do not wait up. She stared at it for a long second, then hit block and set the phone face down. At 7 sharp the next morning, the doorbell rang. Myra strode in jeans and a blazer, dark hair pulled back, eyes scanning the place like it was a crime scene. Wow, she said. Cold, expensive, emotionally unavailable. This apartment is him. Lena snorted. Help me before I change my mind, she said. You will not, Myra said. But yes. They carried the suitcases down the private elevator themselves. The doorman, who had always been politely distant, opened the building door and looked at the bags. Moving out, Miss Cole? He asked. Yes, Lena said. Thank you. He nodded. For what it is worth, he said quietly. You were always kinder than most people who live up there. Good luck. Her throat tightened. Thank you, she managed. On the sidewalk, Lena paused and looked up at the glass tower, its windows reflecting the morning light. For 3 years this building had been the center of her life, the proof that she had not just dreamed the whole thing. It looked smaller today. Myra honked. Stop staring at his metaphor, she called. We have a day job to build. Lena laughed, wiped at her eyes, and climbed into the car. As they pulled away from the curb, the tower slid out of the rearview mirror. Her future, for the first time in a long time, did not. Myra's apartment was cramped, loud, and real. The walls were thin, the upstairs neighbor played bad techno at odd hours, and the hot water sometimes took 10 minutes to show up. Lena loved it almost immediately. Within a week she had claimed a corner of the living room for a cheap desk and a second-hand laptop. Sticky notes bloomed on the wall above it. Her savings account looked thin, but not hopeless. She had skills. She had contacts. She had a lawyer whose idea of a good time was writing contracts. Start your own firm, Myra said, pacing with a mug of coffee, bare feet slapping the hardwood. You have been doing crisis work for him for free. Do it for people who will actually sign your checks. I do not have a name, a space, or a plan, Lena said. Myra tossed a folder at her. Now you do, she said. I may have drafted this 6 months ago, just in case you grew a spine. Inside the folder were budget sheets, a list of potential clients, and a name, Cole PR. Lena looked at it, tasted the words, and felt something warm spark in her chest. Okay, she said. Let us see what happens. 6 months later, Cole PR rented 3 desks in a downtown coworking space with exposed brick and a broken espresso machine. Their first clients were small, but word traveled. People remembered the quiet woman who had stood in the back of Thorn Capital meetings and whispered better answers into her boss's ear. You are the one who saved the shipping deal, a restaurant owner told her once. You asked the right questions. I want you. Lena worked until her eyes burned. She hired 1 junior consultant and an intern, both young, hungry, and impressed by her ability to stay calm when a client sent panicked emails at 3 in the morning. She did not hear from Kaysen. She saw his name in business news and on the covers of finance magazines, tied to record funds and aggressive acquisitions. She scrolled past. Then a healthcare company in trouble called. Anonymous online posts had accused them of hiding side effects. Their stock was in free fall. Cole PR signed them and threw everything they had at the fire. For 2 days Lena barely slept. She prepared statements, trained executives, coordinated with legal, and set up dashboards to track sentiment. The lines started moving in the right direction. Analysts began to breathe again. On the morning of the third day, disaster hit. A rival firm released a leaked document online. It was Lena's confidential crisis plan, twisted just enough to make it look like the company had hired her to manipulate the public instead of be transparent. Headlines exploded again. In the office, Tara the junior consultant stared at her screen in horror. How did they get this? She whispered. Lena's stomach turned to ice. They did not keep paper copies. Only a handful of people had access to the files. Her, Tara, the client, and one intern. By midnight, the intern sat in a conference room, red-eyed and shaking as she confessed. She said it was just for a school project. The girl said, twisting her hands. She said she was an old friend of yours. She wanted to see how top firms handle crisis work. She said if I helped her, she would recommend me for a job. I did not think. Describe her. Lena said, voice calm and flat. Blonde. The intern whispered. Pretty, soft voice. She said her name was Eve. Lena shut her eyes for a second, then opened them again. Eve. Of course. By morning she had collected everything she needed. Security footage from the building, timestamps, the intern's written statement, and traces that linked the rival firm to an investment group with ties to Thorn Capital. She put it all into a neat folder, wrote a letter for her client explaining what had happened and how they would respond, and then grabbed her coat. The lobby of Thorn Capital's headquarters was all glass and stone and quiet money. The receptionist, who remembered her, blinked in surprise. Ms. Cole, he said. Do you have an appointment? No, Lena said. Tell Mr. Thorn I am here about a leak that ties back to his circle and could cost him a lot of money. She did not wait long. Kaysen's office looked almost the same. Tall glass walls, a view of the city, dark desk. The only new detail was the woman perched on the edge of that desk. Evelyn's hair was a little shorter, her dress a little more expensive, but she still smiled like the world was her mirror. Just trying to protect you, Evelyn was saying. Lena has been building her own brand on your back. Someone needed to remind her who has the real power. Lena opened the door. Conversation died. For a second all three of them just stared. Then Evelyn recovered, sliding off the desk. You cannot be in here without an appointment. She snapped. Security will escort you out. Lena walked to the desk and dropped the folder in front of Kaysen. Read, she said. He flipped the cover open. Security shots of Evelyn in the lobby at Cole PR, head down, sunglasses on. Copies of messages between the intern and a contact number. Casino records and credit slips from Evelyn's time in Europe, connected to quiet bailouts from anonymous accounts. The more he read, the tighter his jaw clenched. What is this? He asked. Proof, Lena said. She bribed my intern, stole my crisis plan, and handed it to a rival firm. She did it to hurt my client and to damage my company. She also did it with ties that can be traced back here. That is your problem. Evelyn laughed, high and sharp. She is lying, she said. She always hated me. She must have planned all this. You know me, Kaysen. I would never. Lena stared at her, cold. You ran to Europe to escape debt, she said. You came back when you heard his fund had doubled. You did not even wait a full month before you started undermining the woman who left you with a whole man. You could have kept your greed away from my work. You did not. Evelyn's face twisted. You are still just his stand-in, she hissed. I am the one he chose first. That is the sad part, Lena said. He spent years chasing an idea of you. He never noticed the real woman standing in front of him. Kaysen looked at Evelyn again, then at Lena, then back at the papers. Is any of this false? He asked Evelyn quietly. She opened her mouth and closed it again. No words came out. In that case, he said, voice turning to ice. Get out. Do not call me. Do not come to my office. Do not use my name for credit again. We are done. Shock slid over her face, then anger. You will regret this. She spat at Lena. You already regret enough for 10 lifetimes. Lena said. I am just here to keep your damage from spreading. Evelyn shoved past her and stormed out. Silence settled. You came here to warn me, Kaysen said eventually. I came here to protect my client, Lena said. Your ex created exposure. If a regulator connects any of this to your firm, things get messy for both of us. She tapped the folder. You will call my client and confirm they were the victim of sabotage. You will deny involvement, obviously, but you will also back our public story that the leak came from a bad actor with a personal grudge. And you will sign a statement saying Cole PR followed ethical practice at every step. If anyone tries to drag my firm again, that statement goes public. He stared at her, something like awe mixing with guilt in his eyes. When did you become this hard? He asked. She thought of the necklace, the note, the suitcase by the door. The night I realized I mattered less to you than a memory, she said. Losing my illusions was the only way to keep my self-respect. He flinched. Lena, he said. I know I hurt you. I know I was blind. I wish I could go back. You cannot, she said. And even if you could, I am not the same woman you left in that apartment. She turned to leave. Lena, he said again. She paused. Thank you, he said. For bringing this. For telling me the truth even after everything. She looked over her shoulder, met his eyes, and felt nothing sharp, only a tired kind of distance. This was never about you, she said. It was about the people who trust me. Remember that. She left the glass office and stepped back into the noise of Midtown, the folder lighter in her hands now that it did not carry the weight of old hopes. Outside, the city moved as if nothing had changed. Inside Lena, everything had. The first time Kaysen showed up at Cole PR, Lena honestly thought she was hallucinating. She stepped out of the elevator with a coffee and nearly walked straight into him in the hallway. He wore a dark coat, no tie, the top button of his shirt undone. He held a paper cup from the cafe downstairs, as if he had been standing there long enough to finish one and go back for another. Lena, he said. Behind her, Tara froze at her desk. Two other consultants tried, and failed, to pretend they were not watching. Kaysen, Lena said, keeping her voice neutral. You are far from your tower. I am here to see you, he said. We do not have business, she replied. Our firm settled that last week. This is not about work, he said. It is about us. She smiled without humor. There is no us, she said. That was the lesson, remember. He swallowed. I know you have every right to slam the door in my face, he said. I know I treated you like a placeholder. I spent 3 years confusing comfort with love. I was wrong. I see it now. I have spent months trying not to see it, but I cannot unsee it anymore. I want to make it right. A year ago those words would have melted her on the spot. Now they landed on the surface of her calm like rain on glass. What does make it right look like in your head? She asked. He blinked. I do not know yet, he said. Therapy, time, effort, whatever it takes. I just know that when you walked into my office with that folder, I realized I trust your judgment more than I trust my own. When I walk into my kitchen I still wait for your humming. When something goes wrong at work, I reach for my phone before I remember I lost the right to call. Myra slipped out of her office and leaned against the door frame, arms folded, eyes sharp. Lena sighed. You miss the services I provided, she said. Free consulting, unpaid emotional labor, domestic comfort. At no point in that speech did you say you regret the way you made me feel. He flinched. I regret all of it, he said. The way I ignored you, the way I measured you against a ghost. I do not want to live like that anymore. He stepped closer. I love you, he said. The office air went very still. Somewhere a pen rolled off a desk and hit the floor. Tears would once have sprung to her eyes. Her heart would once have sprinted. Now she felt only a distant ache and a firm line in the sand. You love losing, she said quietly. You love that I am the one person who walked away. You love the idea of winning me back, because it would prove something to you about yourself. Lena, that is not fair, he said. It is honest, she replied. If you had loved me, truly loved me, you would have looked up from your laptop when I showed you that necklace. You would have heard me when I asked what we were. You would have noticed when I stopped speaking in we and went back to I. Color rose along his collar. So that is it, he asked. I admit I was wrong. I ask for another chance, and you do not even consider it. That is it, she said. Because this is not a test you get to retake. You broke something you cannot unbreak. I spent 3 years learning to twist myself smaller for you. I am not going back into that shape. You are not even curious about what we could be now? He asked, voice low. She thought about the life she had built since she left. Her small office. Her growing team. Long days that were exhausting but finally hers. The quiet feeling of pride every time a client signed a new contract. She also thought about Noah Reyes, the investor, who had walked into a pitch meeting 6 months ago, and walked out with a retainer and her number. Noah, who listened when she spoke, who asked how she was and waited for real answers, who did not measure her against anyone but the woman she said she wanted to be. No, Lena said. I am not curious. He stared at her. I do not recognize you, he said. That is because you never really looked, she replied. Myra pushed off the door frame and came over. You have had your monologue, she told Kaysen. Time to go. This is a workplace, not your redemption arc. He looked from one to the other, anger and hurt battling in his face. This is not over, he said quietly. For you, Lena said. For me it ended the day I put my key on your table. He left. The glass door clicked shut behind him. For a second the office was silent. Then Tara raised a hand. Respectfully, that was the most satisfying thing I have ever watched, she said. Lena laughed, the tension breaking. Back to work, she said. Drama break is over. Myra waited until they were alone in Lena's tiny office to ask the real question. How do you feel? She said. Lena thought for a second. Lighter, she said. Like I finally closed a tab that has been open in the back of my mind for years. Myra grinned. Welcome to the rest of your life, she said. The industry started calling Lena the calm in the storm. She hated the nickname, but she understood why it stuck. While other PR heads loved cameras and sound bites, she preferred quiet rooms and whiteboards. Her results spoke for her. Cole PR grew from 3 desks to a full floor. The coffee got better, the clients bigger. Her team learned her rhythms. When she walked fast, something big was happening. When she slowed down and tapped her pen on her notebook, she was about to reframe the whole problem. Noah kept showing up at the right times. He ran a small investment firm that focused on companies trying to do real good without going broke. They first worked together when he brought in a solar startup with a messy founder exit. You listen more than any consultant I have met, he told her after their 3rd meeting. Most people just wait for their turn to talk. I get paid to stop my clients from burning down their own reputations, Lena said. Listening is the cheapest firewall. He laughed. Have dinner with me, he said. Off the clock. No slide decks allowed. She hesitated. Old habits whispered that accepting would be disloyal to some idea of herself that had already died. She told the habit to shut up and said yes. Dinner turned into a movie. A movie turned into a weekend escape when their schedules lined up. No one was perfect, but Noah did something she had never experienced before. He paid attention. When she said she hated surprises, he did not plan dramatic gestures. When she said she needed a night alone after a brutal week, he sent her takeout, and did not sulk when she did not answer his calls right away. When she told him the full story of her stand-in years, he did not laugh or pity her. He just listened and asked, "What did you learn about yourself in all that mess?" "That I am capable of shrinking," she said. "And that I never want to do it again." He squeezed her hand across the table. "Good," he said. "I like you at full size." The following spring, the Public Relations Association nominated Cole PR for Firm of the Year. The award dinner was held in a grand hotel ballroom, all chandeliers and round tables and name tags. Lena wore a black jumpsuit and low heels. Myra threatened to sue the committee if Lena did not win. Noah kissed her behind a column and told her that win or lose, she had already built something impressive. When they announced Cole PR as the winner, the applause felt unreal. Lena walked to the stage, heart pounding, palms sweating. The award was heavy and smooth in her hands. The microphone waited. She cleared her throat. 3 years ago, she said, I walked away from a life that looked good on paper and felt hollow in private. I had no plan beyond a couple of suitcases and a friend with a couch. I was terrified. Soft laughter rippled through the room. I had also spent years letting someone else define my worth. She continued. I thought being chosen by the right man meant I mattered. When he chose someone else, I thought that meant I did not. A murmur passed through the crowd. Some faces turned thoughtful. Some faces turned uncomfortable. I was wrong, Lena said. The most important person who will ever choose you is you. When I finally stopped trying to be a stand-in in someone else's story, and started treating my own work and heart like they counted, everything changed. She glanced down at her team, at Myra, at Noah. This award belongs to everyone at Cole PR who answered late-night calls, who told hard truths to scared clients, who believed a woman who used to be someone's shadow could build a firm that stands on its own. She smiled. And to anyone out there who feels like a backup plan, she finished. Please hear this. You are not a stand-in. You are not a practice run. You are the main story. Do not hand the pen to anyone who does not know how to write you. The applause rolled over her like a wave. Near the back of the room, half hidden by a column, Kaysen stood very still. He had come as a guest of another firm, and told himself he was there for networking. When Lena's name was called, he had not been able to keep his eyes off the stage. Her speech hit like a punch, and a blessing at once. He left before dessert, the weight of what he had lost heavier than ever, but for the first time he did not reach for his phone. Some doors, he finally understood, stayed closed. Time smoothed the sharpest edges. Cole PR opened a small office in Los Angeles. Myra made partner, and celebrated by buying a bright red car, and then complaining about parking for months. Noah and Lena took a week off to sit on a beach with bad cell service, her laptop buried at the bottom of a suitcase. 2 years after the award, Lena stood in a sunlit loft surrounded by friends and family, while Eddie Vedder played softly on a borrowed speaker. Fairy lights hung from the beams. In front of her, Noah held her hands and grinned like a man who had won the lottery. Do you, Noah, promise not to schedule client calls at 2 in the morning unless there is literal fire? The officiant asked, reading from the vows they had written. I do, he said, solemn and amused. And do you, Lena, promise to at least try to let other people answer emails when you are sick? Lena laughed. I do, she said. They exchanged rings, kissed while everyone cheered, and danced under the lights until midnight. Myra cried exactly as much as she swore she would not, and then made a toast about choosing yourself first that had half the room clapping, and the other half reaching for tissues. Marriage did not turn Lena's life into a fairy tale. There were still long nights, bad clients, and fights about stupid things like laundry, and whose turn it was to order groceries. But there was also a steady, daily choice. They chose each other. They chose themselves. A year later their daughter arrived, loud and tiny and perfect. She inherited Lena's eyes and Noah's smile. She also inherited an entire village of honorary aunties and uncles from Cole PR, who took turns babysitting when Lena had to fly out for high-stakes meetings. One mild Sunday afternoon in early spring, Lena and Noah took their toddler to Central Park. The trees were just starting to show pale green at the tips. Joggers passed, kids screamed on the playground, a busker played guitar near a fountain. Their daughter sat in a stroller demanding snacks and pointing at every dog. Look, mommy, she yelled as a golden retriever bounded past. He is so fast. He is very fast, Lena said. Maybe he drinks all his milk. They rounded a bend, and Lena saw a man sitting alone on a bench under a bare tree. Even from a distance she knew him. Kaysen looked older. A few threads of silver showed in his dark hair. His suit jacket was off, sleeves rolled, tie gone. He sat slouched, elbows on his knees, hands loosely clasped. His eyes were on the path, but his focus seemed miles away. Lena's steps slowed. Noah followed her gaze. That him? He asked quietly. Yeah, she said. No anger surged up, no leftover longing. Just a strange, quiet recognition, like seeing an old apartment building, and knowing you used to live there, but could not imagine moving back in. For a second she considered walking past without any reaction. Pretend she did not see him. Pretend he was a stranger. Then she thought of the girl in the penthouse 3 years ago, the one who had cried into a pillow, and still checked her phone every 10 minutes for a man who did not call. That girl deserved better closure than pretending. When they drew level with the bench, Kaysen looked up. Their eyes met and held. Surprise flickered over his face, followed by something softer. Regret maybe. Or simple acceptance. Lena gave him a small nod. It was not an invitation. Not forgiveness in some dramatic, sweeping way. Just a quiet message. We survived. We are both different now. He nodded back, a slight, tired tilt of his head. His gaze shifted to the stroller, to the little girl kicking her legs and chattering about ducks. Then to Noah, whose hand rested lightly on the stroller handle. A faint, sad smile tugged at Kaysen's mouth. He looked back at Lena one last time, and she saw no expectation in his eyes. No plea. Just the end of a story. Lena turned toward her family. Mom, swing. Her daughter demanded, pointing at the playground. Bossy, Noah said. She gets that from you. She gets her volume from you. Lena shot back. They walked on, laughter easy between them. The park smelled like damp earth and pretzels from a nearby cart. Somewhere behind them, a man sat alone on a bench under a waking tree. Once, Lena would have felt compelled to look back, to check. to carry his mood as if it were another piece of jewelry she had to wear. She did not look back now. She had a husband who met her halfway, a child who thought she hung the moon, a company with her name on the door. She had friends who had seen her at her lowest and still answered the phone. Above all, she had herself. She was no one's stand-in anymore. She was the whole story. And this time, the pen was firmly in her hand.
Thanks for watching. Follow for more romance stories.